All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with longtime friend Dan Wallace. Dan, thank you for doing this, buddy.
Hello, I'm waving to the camera, but but also it's a podcast, so usually people
Yes.
listen to these.
I honestly, I find out that a lot of people watch podcasts quite a bit, which is odd to me because I like to listen to them. It's an audio thing, but yeah,
I
a lot of people
mostly
watch them.
I mostly listen to my podcast while walking dogs, so I can't watch.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
I
it's
do it while driving and
driving
dishes and
too, yeah,
laundry.
dishes,
Yeah,
yeah, all that stuff. God,
yeah.
my
It's hard
favorite
to
thing
like.
is to just do dishes while listening to a podcast. I just don't have to think about it. Though
Yeah.
I can like set my phone up so that I can kind of watch a little bit while I'm doing dishes.
I do the same thing. I put it in. It's on like a little stand, and if something comes up, I'll run over. And I'll be like, "Oh, okay. Let me. All right. What are they talking about? I got to see this."
Yeah, I mean,
um.
it's not. I don't do it often, but I can. Like if it's, especially if it's like a show that I've already watched before. It's
Mhm.
like if I just need something on in the background just to get me through the dishes,
Yeah.
put it up.
So I just want to explain to everybody what's going on. Dan is so kind to help me test out remote podcasting. I recently switched my platform distribution to Acast, and that allows me to do some remote podcasting. We're trying out the video feature today, which I'm hoping I'll be able to upload to YouTube pretty easily. But either way, the audio will be bounced out of that. So, but both things are kind of cool. I'm testing out video as well as remote podcasting. And Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad I get to. I've never really done this before, remotely like this, and I'm glad I get the chance to use my setup in my house. I've
yeah.
spent a lot of money on all this stupid equipment, and I like almost never get the chance to use it.
Yeah, I've never used my equipment for like a remote thing like this before. In fact, when I teach my lessons online, it's all like with the computer audio and the computer camera and everything. So I'm
Sure.
never using anything like this, like a setup with a microphone and headphones. Um, but anyway, so yeah, part of this is also because, and it's no secret anymore, I'm moving and from New Orleans, and the idea of being able to do remote podcasts with people is pretty actually exciting. That way, I can keep it going. Um, and reach out to people like I might not have access to otherwise. One person, a childhood friend, he's now a music manager and he lives in Ohio, but he manages a hip hop artist out of Austin, I think Austin, somewhere in Texas. Kel Domo, I think is the artist's name. And he's saying, hey, he'd love to be on, but we're not going to meet up in the same city. So this is an opportunity for me to test out this situation and see how it goes, and also contact people that like. There's a Twitch streamer I like. I don't watch too much, but I realized it'd be fascinating to talk to him. I just like him. And I was like, I could totally reach out to him on like Twitter or something. I'm not sure if it'll happen, but the possibilities are endless when you start going down that line. And I haven't been able to tap into that yet. So this is exciting for me. Um, yeah.
I mean,
So
clearly the system works. At least I
yeah,
hope
it's
so.
working. Yeah. So Dan, what's been going on with you since you've last been on the podcast? Some time back, I think
I
when
think
we
it
were
was
all together in
a
the
year
Northeast.
ago. It
Yeah.
was about a year ago because it was last Crew de Vue.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, when you and Maggie came down and
Yep.
visited, and we did it at James's house. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
What's been going on with you since then? Saxophonist, musician, jazz player. What's been going on with you to tell the
Yeah.
people?
Um, I don't know. I told you I had two bands. Both of them are kind of defunct now.
Really?
Yeah, but I
With
started new bands.
Walhas,
Walhass is
and
not defunct. We just
okay,
haven't performed
just
in like
funky.
we haven't performed in about 8 months, and we have no plans to perform soon. So I
Okay.
I talk with my collaborator Jake on a regular basis, and like we always say that we're gonna get. The problem is Jake teaches 6 days a week, and he has
Oh, really?
6 full days of teaching every week. Like he has no time. He has no time to practice. He has no time to live a life. He has no time to do anything. But
That's a lot of teaching. Six
it's
days a
so
week.
yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how many students he has right now, but there was a time when it was like 55 students.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
so many.
yeah. I mean, a lot of them were half hours, but still,
That's a
even with
lot.
them being half hours, not all of them were half hours. I think like 12 of them were hours.
That's still for those listening. I mean, that's Wow, that's a lot too. If I mean that's like a
I think
40-hour week
I
with
think what people don't
students.
understand, if you're yeah, if you're not like a musician and you don't do this private teaching thing, they think, "Oh, 40 hours a week, that's like full time." It's like, "No, no, no, no.
Oh no.
Full-time teaching hours is like 4 hours in a day. That's full-time teaching for a day." And
Yeah.
most people don't do that more than, I don't know, 2, 3 days a week at max. I have about 2 full days a week of students. I have about 14 half-hour long students, and that feels really good to me. It doesn't feel like too much, it doesn't feel like too little. It's the right amount. It's the
I'm
exact right.
just about in that ballpark as well with mine. And they're most are 45 minutes to an hour actually, but they're it's about that many students, few in person, quite a few online, and it feels good. It's like, and it's easy to manage. Like today, before we even got started, I just got offered a last minute gig for tonight. It's a rehearsal right after we're done recording. I got to run out the door and do a rehearsal with somebody for some percussion recital, and then I'll be meeting back up with them tonight for the performance. But I am able to, and it's going to pay well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, um, it's like the flexible stuff. I was telling you, and I can talk about it. I can't say what I did in the movie, but I can say that I was in Spinal Tap too.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know you could say that. That's great.
I
Yeah.
can say, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can't say what
The
you
ND,
did, but you can,
yeah, I
yeah.
can't disclose like plot details or anything.
Right.
Basically, when it comes out, most likely next summer, Spinal Tap 2. And it's no secret it was filming in New Orleans. All the original cast members and Rob Reiner as director, and a lot of special guests. I know Elton John's in it, and Paul McCartney, and other, and I think old characters from the past they're bringing back up. And I have a very neat scene, and I'll be playing guitar. And I guess I can't say much more than that, but it's really cool. It's really funny, and I'll post about it when it comes out. So, but
I
the
thought it
up,
was exciting. I thought it was
I
very
thank
exciting.
you. I appreciate that. I thought it was, yeah, it's really cool. So that's going to come out, yeah, I think next summer, and I can talk about it then. But yeah, the NDA, I can't like talk plot details, but yeah, it's open. I was in it. It's fucking cool. It's a cool experience. It's really cool. I should, yeah, told you all about it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, sounds great.
yeah, but that so doing something like that is because I have a flexible schedule. So
Yeah.
those it's like the give and take of the musician, hustler, freelance lifestyle is you can move things around and take advantage of freedom of schedule, but at the same time you sacrifice, I don't know, stability and routine, I think, in those realms.
It's
So, do you
interesting.
find that?
I'm at the point where I have a lot more stability and routine than I ever have in my life. And the problem is it's still not as stable as I would think it should be. Like I have basically
Interesting.
4 days a week where I know where I'm going to be pretty much the whole day every day. I mean,
Okay. Oh, that's
I
pretty good. That's pretty
yeah,
good.
4 days a week. I have 2 days of teaching and 2 days of dog walking. And I know pretty much how much money I'm going to make
Mhm.
for all of that. And it's going to be pretty much every week. I mean, unless I cancel for some reason,
Yeah.
which I can do, but I don't like to do for obvious reasons.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's weird to have that much stability, but then also be like, oh, I'm still in a place where I don't know if I'm going to be able to make certain bills happen, at least not on time. I mean, I can. I don't. It always
Mhm.
works out somehow or another.
Yeah.
But I don't always know for sure. Part of it is also like, I don't know. I live my life as if I'm going to have the same amount of gigs this year that I did last year,
Mhm.
and this coming year I actually don't.
Really?
I have about a third less than I did last year.
You talking for 2024?
Yeah, yeah, a third less than I did in 2023. Now that being said, that could change, but
Yeah.
I think across the board things are slower. Things are less now.
You you think that for everyone, in
At
general, like, do
least
you
everyone
in
in
your area?
in my area.
You're in Baltimore.
I've been
Yeah.
talking to everyone. Yes, I'm in Baltimore, DC as well, Northern Virginia, even
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Everything is definitely noticeably less. I'm not going to say a lot less. I'm not going to say like, oh my god, I went from like performing every night to performing like one night a week. Like that's not what I mean. I mean it's
Okay.
like I'm feeling it harder than other people, but other people are like, yeah, I have like 15-20% less gigs this year.
Okay, and very measurable. Interesting. I get where I see where you're coming at. For me, it's I don't think about it too much, like in terms of like specifics, but yeah, I can feel and understand. You know, there's like an energy if I have multiple gigs a weekend or something versus then I can recognize, oh wait, I'm not playing that festival or whatever this year. I didn't get that thing's not happening.
Well, the big
That that
stuff
fe-
is that the festival stuff is like big stuff. Like you can't really
yeah.
count on big stuff. Big stuff is just like
Well,
if it
sure,
happens, it
yeah.
happens. That's great. You're not expecting that. It's
Hmm.
like the day-to-day stuff. Like a lot of my gigs are wedding gigs. So it's like I expect a certain number of wedding gigs a year. So if it normally is 30, it's only going to be 20 this year, which is a lot less. It's
Yeah.
noticeably less. And it
Now
means
is that the band? Like, is the band itself that you play with, or, are they having less gigs? Or is
I
it do you have a
get
a collective of bands that you perform with? So
I have a few different groups that I play with in those kind of contexts. There's one main one and a few other like offshoots.
mhm,
The offshoots don't have the number the number of gigs that the big one has.
mhm,
The big one is definitely less though. I've talked to some of the higher ups in the company about it, and they've all basically said, "Yeah, it's just less this year. It's just less for
okay,
everyone. It's less for us. It's less for the big bosses. It's less just across the board. At least in my area. I don't know about
sure,
the group that I work for. They have like local chapters all over the world. I
mhm.
think there is one in New Orleans actually. I think
What's the group called? What's the
I
organization?
the big organization is called the International Musicians League. I
Okay.
don't know. The one in Baltimore has the pretty much the dumbest name ever. It's called the Bachelor Boys Band. The other
Okay.
names of the other groups around the country are not
Uh-huh.
that dumb.
Okay.
They're actually like I think the one in Chicago is called Blue Water Kings, and then I know there's one in New Orleans, but it's like it's
Okay.
weird. So Bachelor Boys covers
Uh-huh.
um, Richmond up through DC, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then it switches over when it gets to New York. It switches over to a group called Silver Arrow.
Okay.
So it's like a kind of separate organization under the same parent company. Uh,
Okay. But essentially they're organizing wedding opportunities and
yeah, and it's
high-end
like they have
gigs.
like a roster of people,
Yeah.
and they take from that roster and put bands together in random combinations.
Yeah, somebody posted, in the New
Oh,
Orleans
actually, I'm
musicians.
not sure if they want me to. They probably don't want me saying this.
What? Oh, really? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not unusual.
no, I don't know for sure they want me saying this. They probably don't.
Well, I won't tag them.
Yeah,
uh, but so there was some guy who posted on the New Orleans musician page recently, and he was based out of Atlanta, and he just needed somebody for a wedding gig, like a horn player who knew all the song, all the top 40 stuff. And
yeah,
I replied and I said, I think somebody filled it pretty quick. And I don't play a lot of saxophone these days. And as I've told you in our just private catch up phone calls, I've backed out of a ton of gigs personally, and I'll talk about that in a second because I'm being very open now about like my new life paths and choices and stuff. But he did post it. And I was like, oh fuck, I'm available tonight. And I just I was like, hey, is the gig still open? Are they in charge? He said, no, I already filled it, but send me links so I can put you on the roster. And it's like, it's one of those things. I've seen this before. Yeah, the guy's based out of Atlanta, maybe the company's based out of Atlanta, and they have a roster and they cover regional areas. And that's I knew about that years and years and years ago with other companies. So it's not unusual practice. It's not
yeah,
like a
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing they wouldn't want me saying is like that they put together people in random combinations, and it's not a band. It's just like we all know the songs. We all show up. We all play the songs.
that's normal for cover and party bands. So like I don't
Yes,
that's
it
not
is, but I think the regular people that are hiring us don't know that. They think that we're a band
oh.
that plays like the
Um
same group of people every time. And
sure.
like
Okay, I get that.
I think the parent company doesn't really want us explaining that to people that we don't do that. That
I get
being
that.
said, I don't see why it's a problem. Like we do a good job. Like
Sure. I
it's
mean, I think that's pretty common knowledge. I understand that those like lay people may not get that. They might not see that it's like a revolving door for the musicians. Like in New Orleans, After Party and Sugar Shaker and a lot of those Chuck Credo bands, they're kind of interchangeable members, and other groups are too. So that's such a common practice. Unless you're like, in my opinion, unless you're like an original act, like original acts, they have established members, and maybe they have somebody a
There
sub for a
are
special gig
there
when they're
there
sick.
are a lot of wedding bands or event bands up here that do have established members. They actually make you sign non-compete clauses,
No kidding.
which
Okay.
I would never do unless you're offering
Yeah.
me a salary. Unless it's like
Yeah.
you're getting paid 65 grand a year.
Yeah.
You don't play with any other band. I'll be like, okay, that's fine. Unless you're
Yeah.
offering that, I'm not signing any kind of non-compete
No,
clause.
fair. Yeah, you can't. I mean, why? Yeah, what? And then they don't give you any offers. It's just like you signed a non-compete
No, they'll give
clause.
me offers, but like there's this one group that I won't mention because I'm going to badmouth them a little bit.
Sure.
They have,
Okay.
if you join one of their bands, they're going to make you sign a non-compete clause, and I think they would get me more gigs than the group that I usually play with, but
Hmm.
they pay half as much,
Oh,
and like you don't get
that
more for
sucks.
signing the non-compete clause. I'm like, my
Why
regular
would you do
band
that?
pays me somewhere between 400 and 500 most of the time. Sometimes
Okay,
they
that's pretty
pay
good.
350, but usually it's between 400 and 500.
Is this you doing now keyboards too, or just saxophone, or
No, this is
sometimes
just
combination?
saxophone, but usually
Okay.
it includes me playing the cocktail hour and the reception and whatever extra stuff is like kind of thrown in during dinner or something.
So how many hours would that be, just for people listening who might not know? Like,
Oh, I
how
mean,
big of a gig is this?
uh, usually it's about 5 or 6
Approximately.
hours that you're there.
Okay.
It's about 5 or 6 hours that you're there.
Plus maybe an
Sometimes
hour travel time, maybe
no,
more.
way more. Way more. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's only cuz a lot of them are in the DC area and DC just
Hmm.
sucks to get around in. So like
Yeah.
officially it only takes 50 minutes for me to get from my house to like the Capitol building.
Okay.
Like it's only supposed to take 50 minutes. But because of traffic the way it always is, literally
Hmm.
always, like not with, a protest or not with a parade, not with some
Hmm.
special event, but just regular traffic, like regular everyday. And mind you, this is Saturday traffic. This is not like commute traffic.
I gotcha.
Regular everyday traffic. That 50 minutes easily turns into 2 hours
That's
most
wild.
of the time, the vast majority.
Okay.
And that's if you can find parking easily. If you can't find parking, sometimes
Wow.
it adds an extra 45 minutes. I mean, unless you're
Jesus.
willing to pay like $80 to park in a lot,
Yeah.
which I'm not willing to.
And you don't get covered for the venue that you're
Nah.
performing at?
Well,
Okay.
sometimes I do, but usually I don't expect it.
Okay.
Um, now, mind you,
Okay.
that's only in the city of DC. If it's like in the outskirts, that's not really as much of an issue. But
Sure, of course, of course. Yeah, it's
But
less. Yeah.
especially if you're in Northern Virginia, you still have to go through DC to get there. So it still sucks to get there. But yeah, a lot of the other thing is a lot of the places I go are also in the country. So like the Eastern Shore of Maryland, that takes about 2.5 hours to get to just because it's far. You have to go across a
Mhm.
bridge, and the bridge is always crowded during the summer. Or I'm going out to Leesburg, Virginia, which is like
Mhm.
west. It's like close. It's like yeah, it's west. It's like
Yeah.
out in the mountains. But that's
Okay.
about an hour and a half to get to. Again,
Sure. And
commute.
you never know if a boat's gonna hit one of your bridges. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, that's uh, thankfully. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other
this
thing.
fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. That's
I thought
that's.
of you when I saw that.
I
I was
mean,
like, I hope I know that you weren't involved or there. I would
no,
have
no. It
heard,
was it
but
happened at
like,
3 in the morning. Sadly,
yeah.
was it like 6 of the workers died that were on there?
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it sucks. But I mean, it could have been a lot worse if they weren't able to stop traffic. But also, it
Yeah.
was 3 in the morning. How much traffic was going across there? Also, I actually don't use that bridge.
Okay.
I
What was the
never.
bridge again? Which bridge?
So it's called the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Oh,
The Francis Scott Key Bridge goes across the No, wait. I guess the Patapsco River, Chesapeake Bay area.
okay.
Patapsco River, I guess. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like the bridge that goes across the main area to get from like the Chesapeake Bay into the port of Baltimore. So it's usually not a big issue for boats to go under there because normally boats aren't that big. Or there's a drawbridge.
Mhm.
Drawbridge is fine, but this boat lost power. It couldn't even go through the drawbridge. So anyway, but it connects two areas. It connects like South Baltimore and like East Baltimore. So it connects an area called Brooklyn to an area called Sparrows Point.
Okay.
Sparrows Point is where Bethlehem Steel used to have a plant, but now there's an Amazon warehouse there. Uh, you know how they have like they have a generic group called blue collar workers. Like that was where the blue collars workers lived because it was right near all the plants and factories and stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like that was that area. Once they had the bridge, they also a lot of the blue collar workers also lived in Brooklyn across the bridge. So for those
Hmm.
folks who lived on the other side of the bridge, if they have to go there now, they have to go all the way around the entire city to the other side.
Hmm.
So that
Seems
does
like a
suck
lot.
for them. But
Yeah.
because it's mostly like factories and warehouses and stuff, there's no reason for me to be there on either side.
Yeah. Sure. I get it. Well, anyway,
It
but
does suck for a lot of
still, it
people, but
sucks.
it doesn't particularly
Yeah.
suck too badly for me specifically.
Well, that's good. No, it was, it's just a crazy thing. And what's crazy is like when that happens, and it's something that I saw. It's like any news thing today. It's like you see it, it kind of takes over for like a minute, and then it dissipates, and then something else takes over the cycle. But Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other people like politicizing and commenting upon this. It's just kind of fascinating. Is like that,
It's
like
also
something like that.
kind of funny because they are all like, well, this only affects poor blacks. It's like, well, no, it actually more. If you knew the area, you would know it affects poor whites much worse.
Yeah.
But of
Mm,
course, that's just the dumb dumbs speaking out of their ass that not don't know the area. They don't know the area.
sure.
So like
Yeah.
I mean, not that it would matter either way. That shouldn't be that shouldn't be that shouldn't be a reason not to put money towards infrastructure at all either way.
Obviously, yeah. We
But
we have a there's a problem. I mean, living in New Orleans, part of why I'm leaving. I mean, it's just a part. There's a lot of factors, of course, but part of it is like it's it's rough to drive around here, and it's crumbling, and there doesn't seem to be great support, and when something gets fixed, something else breaks right away, and I always thought that was unique to being where I am, but now I hear more and more and more that it's more common in other cities in this country, and
I
it's not
think
it's not just a New Orleans thing per
it's
se.
worse in New Orleans than it was anywhere else that I've lived.
Sure, yeah, yeah,
But
and
it's not
that's
like it
part of
doesn't
New Orleans.
exist here.
Yeah,
You know, it's like there's issues like that. The problem with DC more than anything is that like it's so old, and because so much of it is historic, they can't modernize it. Like they can't make it easier for certain things to happen.
sure,
So they have
that
to kind
makes
of like
sense.
work within the parameters that they have, and they can't do much
Oh,
with
it's
that.
patchwork. It's similar to New Orleans. It's not that they can't do stuff here, but it's built on an infrastructure and a design that wasn't made. It wasn't intended for a modern city,
Right.
I believe. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think that's there's elements of New York I think that are like that. Although they've built a lot on that island, Manhattan specifically. It's
I
like
feel like it's a lot more difficult to get historic status in New York. I feel like they're more like, yeah, you really have to prove it. You really
yeah,
have to prove like this building that's taking up really important real estate space
of
is
course.
worth us keeping it here.
I didn't mean specifically like the like historic, like as a title. I just meant like the fact that it's older infrastructure and that they have like it's
Yeah,
challenging to redo things and shut things down and like reallocate the resource or the direction, the flow of traffic or sewer or whatever it is. Um, yeah, yeah, I just see that, especially like when that hurricane came. Maybe it was Ida, because it hit New Orleans and then traveled up northeast. My where I grew up got hit real bad with the flood from that and the Brandywine River, and then the subways in New York, right? They were flooding. Is that from that? I think that's from that. That's a couple years back, and
I
then
don't
everyone was
remember
just like,
yeah.
"Oh, I do remember the subways in New York, like rushing
Yeah,
water. They were
I
getting
know. I
flooded."
don't remember which hurricane it was. It might have been Ida. I
Yeah,
can't
I
remember.
think anyway, the point is, but I remember everyone posting like, "This shouldn't happen," and there's an element of like, "Yeah, it shouldn't." Like this, we should have a better system, and at the same time, there's also we have to have a realization like, but it also might and will happen, right? Like just because it shouldn't doesn't mean it won't. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was
that's kind of the disconnect I think these days.
I heard some article. It might have actually been from the New York Times, but I can't remember. But they were saying some figure of like every mile of subway costs several $billion to build. Every
That's
mile.
not. That seems so like not good. Like,
Well, it's because they can't just like tear up the entire
of
street.
course, of
They have
course.
to
I
do
just
it.
meant, yeah,
But yeah, it's the people complain that we don't have good public transit, and I agree. But the problem is we have too many constraints here.
yeah.
And
Um,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, all we're getting into these like these negative aspects, but I do want to ask you, with like what you talk about, like these less gigs and some other, the hassles. Have you considered switching things up in your life and doing something different or something that incorporates music but is more steady or a different path of sorts?
Like what?
I don't know. I mean, that's like other
I mean, you're
passions or
you're not the
interests.
only person to ask me that question, and the
Yeah,
answer is always, "What am I qualified to do?" I
I
mean,
don't. I
you have a
okay.
different degree than I do. I don't have a music education degree. I can't go teach at a public school. And at this point, a
Sure.
private school job mostly wants a music education degree as well. I don't have that, and to get that would cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I was talking to a couple of people recently that said, at the moment, they will take people with bachelor's degrees, but if things come back, which I don't know that they ever will,
Hmm.
but if they ever do come back, they're going to expect you to have a master's degree as a starting teacher, as like a first year teacher. They're going to expect you to like finish your master's degree
You're
and
talking
then
about for
teach.
band director or
Yeah.
like what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like any public school teacher.
Oh, that's. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't
Yeah,
think
I,
that's going to be
I agree with you
sustainable.
because at this point they're getting people that aren't even finished with their bachelor's degrees yet because they're
Exactly. I was going to say they
but
have a
also,
problem.
the reason why that is because the job keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and they keep losing
Exactly.
teachers.
Exactly. So
So
I.
that's
I mean,
another
there's.
reason I would never do that. It's not worth the money. So that's the other
Sure.
thing I have to think about. Like, what am I qualified to do?
Hmm.
Very little, probably nothing. So what am I qualified to do? And then
Maybe. I mean,
what am
that's
I
a.
oh wait, and then
Okay.
what am I qualified to do? And what of those things that I'm qualified me to do that would actually not just have the same but increase my level of income and ability to pay for things and just increase my quality of life because like I'm not going to switch jobs from what I do now to something else unless it's going to not just maintain my quality of life but increase it.
Sure.
Like
Okay.
there's no reason
Okay.
for me to do that. And also a starting year teacher makes
Fair.
what, 32
Fair.
thousand a year. I make more than that now.
Okay. I wasn't necessarily talking about teaching. I meant just like a different like teaching falls into the yes, the more stable umbrella that I was indicating. But I meant it could be. I'm talking for my own choices that I'm making is potentially to go into a whole different field and to utilize like
What
things I've done.
how much
What am I
money
qualified for?
yeah, what
Money
money
doesn't matter.
what money are
I'm
you
not
going
look.
to have to spend to get qualified to do those jobs? That's the
I
thing.
wouldn't. Well, I
Okay, well,
wouldn't.
then
I would.
what are you qualified to do? I mean, it's the same issue to some degree. What are you qualified to do?
It is art. It's a challenge. It's like a lot of everything and a little like it's weird. I'm looking at like record company jobs and even podcasting stuff, things that are management based because I've managed companies. I've had a record company, a publishing company. I've managed a band, LLC. I've had a lot of self-starting business aspects and self-employment, education, speaking stuff. So there's an element of all the things that I've done that there's something there. Somebody was suggesting consulting. There's like, I know that
You
like
didn't
a
you
friend
didn't
of,
go to you didn't go to an Ivy League school. No one's going to hire you as a consultant.
well, yeah, I'm sure. No, I'm not sure.
At
Well,
least not a
maybe you,
corporate
well,
consultant.
actually, you don't know. Apparently, that's not necessarily true, but I don't know
It's
shit
mostly
about that.
true. It's
Yeah.
mostly
Well,
true.
I'm not going to defend that. I don't know shit about it. I'm just saying it was one thing somebody said to me the other day. I didn't even look into it.
I
My
mean, you
point
could
is,
do like private consulting, but that doesn't pay very well.
I
Like
don't
if
know what it pays. I'm also getting at that, like, I don't. For me, it's not necessarily about the money per se. It's like more about the experience and stability and what it provides. So if the pay is decent, as in it provides a stable, steady living, and I have more time to put towards
but
like
what is a stable,
make.
steady living? That's the question. what is a stable, steady living? I mean, it depends where you are to some degree, but
Sure.
like for me in Baltimore, a stable, steady living would be like I start at like 65 grand, 70 grand, and then I get regular raises to keep up with inflation. That
Hmm.
doesn't exist. I don't know why people think that any like a job where you show up to every day doesn't pay
Hmm.
that. It doesn't pay that.
No, some do, some don't. Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Not
those
starting
positions.
salary, not without like
Yeah, no,
my girlfriend who is an engineer did not start at 70 grand. That's not what
sure,
she did. She's doing
right.
fine now, but she's had the same job for 10 years.
Hmm.
And she's also like, proved herself that she's invaluable to the company. So like they'll pay her to some degree, they'll pay her whatever she wants because
That's great.
I mean within reason of course, but like if she asks for a raise, she's probably going to get one.
That's awesome.
But
That's a great place to be in. So I'm
it's a
glad
good
for
place to
her.
be in, but I'm not qualified to do any job like that. There's no job that I'm qualified to do that people find valuable. Like in terms of money. And you say something steady and
Okay,
something, but that does require money. It does require
sure.
money. Like you
I feel like there are office jobs and other positions out there that like
which ones?
exist.
Which
I
ones?
don't know specifically. I don't
I
know.
mean,
I mean,
you have
I
to list them otherwise like you can't just say they're office jobs. Like doing what? What do you think these office jobs are?
I know they're like call centers that people work for, like, I don't
You
know,
want to do
credit card
customer
companies
service?
and
You want to do
yeah,
customer
things like
service?
that.
Yeah, that
I'm
that
not saying I do. I'm just saying that
I'm
those
I'm saying
exist.
generically you. Like you want
Yeah, okay.
me or I want you or the world wants you to do customer service. On again, starting salary is like 32 grand, 35 grand. You can't live on that.
Okay.
Like that's if
All
you're
right.
lucky and like you're probably not going to move up in the company. Like you're probably just going to stay in that call center. You might make a 2% raise a year. That's not enough to live on. That's not enough to live on. It's just not. It's
Uh,
like it's like a step or two above working at McDonald's. It's not a good job.
okay. I see what you're getting at. I'm not trying to be specific in like I think
Yeah,
one
but
should
I
work
am
at.
trying to be specific because whenever people say this to me,
Mhm.
not you, I'm saying like boomers, like old people, whenever they, not my parents understand, but like
Yeah.
other old people, they say, like, why don't you just get a job? I'm like, what job? What job?
I I see. I understand where you're getting. Okay. Yeah. I'm not saying. I understand that. Yeah, and you have to apply to a
Well,
lot
and
of
then
jobs
you're
and
you're
everything.
sitting here saying, like, have you ever thought about
Have you?
moving?
Are you? I'm guessing. Well, no, no. I guess what I'm saying is, have you considered taking what you've done in life and making and saying, you know what, I don't know if I'm happy with this. Maybe you are. I'm not saying that you're not, man. I'm not. I guess what I'm
Not
saying is,
unhappy. but also
okay,
but also even if I was to take what I've learned, which is not nothing, I'm not
yeah,
saying I don't have any skills. I do have skills. I have
sure,
done lots of things. I look at what an event planner does and I'm like, I
uh,
could do that better than you most of the time.
sure. There you go. There you
But
go.
but that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That doesn't matter in the end.
Does it? I don't know. I mean, I know people who become event planners that didn't like they didn't go to college for event planning, or
They had
whatever
to get a
the
cash infusion. I don't have rich parents or rich grandparents
what would
that
the
could give
cash
me
infusion be for?
it's for starting all the insurance and business. I know you've done it before.
Oh, I see what you're getting at. You mean as like an individual? I meant working for like potentially a company where you start like you start in a starting position and you understand that,
Yeah, what does
you
that
know.
starting position pay? That starting position pays $28,000 a year. That's not
Yeah,
enough to live on. It's not enough to live on.
I think you're lowballing, but maybe I don't know
I'm not.
specifically.
I've looked into this stuff. That's how I mean,
Okay.
maybe it's a little different now. The other thing is this. Anything that's even remotely
Hmm.
remote. Anything
Yeah.
that's even somewhat remote is going I just talked to a friend of mine.
Hmm.
He works for a major cable company. He's a mid-level executive at one of the big cable companies, like the cable TV companies, and he does
Okay.
advertising like sales data. Like he doesn't do the
Hmm.
sales, but he works for the sales team doing ad sales data. He does
Okay.
very well. He does very, very well. He's making approximately as much money as his wife does, and she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer for the federal
Okay.
government.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Um, he had to get a master's degree, so he already had two master's degrees in music, and a bachelor's degree in music. He had to get a master's degree in like software engineering, but he
Okay.
already had a leg up because he's been coding since he was like 8 years old. Like he's older than us. He's
Mm-hmm.
been coding since he was 8 years old. So he was coding on like Apple IIs.
Okay.
So he already had some knowledge of that. So he wasn't going into this master's degree with zero training. And I don't know how much training you have with coding, but I have zero. I know nothing,
Okay.
nothing. And also
Yeah.
coding means nothing to anyone by this point. It's like the upper level software engineering stuff. He just
Sure.
opened up a position on his team. He just opened up a position on his team. They need a software engineer. You know how many
Mm-hmm.
people applied for that one position? You
I
want
would
to give it a
imagine
guess?
2,500.
No, give it a real guess.
I, I'm almost not kidding. I mean, I'm gonna say it's definitely hundreds of people, if not 1,000.
It's 500. 500
Okay.
people applied to one position. And mind
I'm
you,
not
he said
surprised.
half of them were completely unqualified. Like half of them did not have a degree in software engineering at all. Like they just had like one of those coding boot camps. And he's like, "Well, I can't take those people. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the kind of person I need." But the other 250 all completely qualified. 250
Gotcha.
people applying for one position. And it was a real position that he really needed filled. He did find someone, obviously, like under amongst 250 applicants, but that's
I'm
for
sure.
those
Yeah.
jobs that actually pay enough to live off of.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of that's the kind of that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking
Yeah.
at for the future. Either they're going to pay you not enough to live on, and you're going to have to live
Mm-hmm.
with your parents because that's what they expect. Oh, I have a funny story for you. I did apply for a job a couple years ago. I won't tell you with who because I'm going to shit on them.
Okay.
Um,
Go on.
so I will tell you, it was for a saxophone accessory company,
Okay.
but I won't go any further than that because if I tell,
Sure.
it was not only saxophones, but saxophone accessories was one thing that they make.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to. It was like a sales position. It was like a sales rep position. It was a full time position. It was a full time
Okay.
position. But to work there, I would have had to move to the New York area and live there in the New York area. So I would have had to live there. Their sales team was based in New Jersey, but it was like New Jersey across the river from New York. So it was like you basically had to live in the New York suburbs or like in New York itself to live
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, do you know how much they were offering for starting salary?
34K. I don't
Actually,
know.
that's really
I
close. It was 31.
okay. Yeah, I guess you couldn't
How
live
in
in New York.
God's name are you going to live anywhere near New York for $31,000 a year working full time? How does that work? And I asked them
Yeah.
this. I asked them
Yeah.
this in the interview because I got to the interview and because it didn't list salary anywhere. So I was like, "Oh, so what
Um.
does it pay?" And he's like, "Oh, it's 31,000 a year." I'm like, "How exactly do you expect me to live off that?" He's like, "Oh, well, don't you have family up here?" I'm like, "So you
Uh.
want me to live with my parents or someone else?" Like, I do have aunts and uncles that live close by, but like, you want me to live with my aunt and uncle? Like, that's what you expect? He's like, "Well, yeah, it's an entry level position." I'm like, an entry level position should still pay enough that you can live where you need to work.
I
Like, that's
agree
not
with
enough
that.
money.
Yeah.
I was like, I looked at, I'm like, I am looking at one bedroom apartments in your area. Even the entire salary of the year would not just pay rent on these. Just not even just rent, let alone utilities, let alone food, let alone
Food. Yeah.
anything else. It would
Yeah.
not pay rent for these one bedroom apartments. I looked at studios. It was only like 10-15% less than the one bedrooms. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're
Yeah.
dealing with.
I
We're
mean, I
dealing
don't
with
I know that as somebody who's applying to jobs, looking at new career paths, and looking at housing costs and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. It, it is
it's not crazy.
concerning.
It's in any other country in the world it would be illegal.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, probably. I
Starting
don't know other.
in,
I don't
in the
know what
vast
other countries.
majority of in the vast majority of
You're
other
talking like westernized
yes.
democratic
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
countries. Yeah.
those yeah.
Uh, I maybe I actually don't know. I imagine yes. There is. It seems that they have better safety net or lower standard measurements. Um, to take care of that. But yeah, it's I don't that's crazy. Because I've been looking at houses, where I grew up and apartments and stuff, and it is unaffordable, for sure for
It's
me.
beyond unaffordable. It's impossible. It's
It's pretty
impossible.
crazy. Yeah,
I mean, I
I don't.
that's the thing about all this stuff because people always ask me like, well, again, you bringing it up just triggered all the other things that people have said to me because
Sure.
I'm about to turn 35 years old. People
Yeah.
think that I should, you know, get on with my life, become an adult. And I'm like, how do you become an adult? I went to college. I have a college degree. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, what job do you have? And I'm like, what job am I qualified to get with this jazz saxophone college degree? Freaking nothing. Nothing.
I
I'm
guess
qualified
so.
to do nothing.
Well, yeah. Okay.
And to be fair,
Um,
it's because our parents and our teachers lied to us. They didn't know they were lying to us because when they were younger, you could get a degree in English and then go work at Sears for the rest of your life and like Sears management, like a corporate
mhm,
job at Sears, like in the
yeah.
office, not like out on the floor. Like you can get a corporate job at Sears, work there for your whole life, get a pension, you'd be good. That was what our parents dealt with. That was what our parents knew. And they thought that the world would be the same. And it's not. It's not the same. They
It's a good
thought,
point.
you're going to get this, you're going to make quote unquote make this investment in your college career or in your college education, and it's going to be good for you, and you're going to grow up, and then after that, you're going to get a job, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah, I
what
know that
job?
path. I get that. I gotta be honest. I feel a bit of defeatism here in a way. Almost. I get where you're coming from. There's a realism for sure and a cynical
I'm not
aspect.
okay.
But
Let me back up
there's always an okay.
because I
Go
haven't
ahead.
told you because like I said I make more than $32,000 a year.
Sure. Yeah,
I do. I make quite a bit more than
it's
32,000 a year.
awesome.
I don't know
Yeah,
exactly how much. I mean,
yeah.
it's in the 40s somewhere. It's
That's
fine.
fantastic,
And
man.
you
Yeah,
know how I make that much money? I make that much money by playing gigs, walking dogs, and
teaching.
teaching
Yeah,
kids individually. And
yeah.
kids that aren't pieces of crap, like kids that I actually like.
That's
And
great.
dogs that I like, and
That's
playing
great
gigs
too.
that mostly I like with people that
Yeah,
I like. So like I've just beat the system. I'm just like I'm not going to do the system. The system
yeah.
is not for me. I've beaten you. I have beaten you.
Yeah, man, that's great. I feel the same way with very similar life of gigs and lessons and hustling and having interesting opportunities and pursuing them. And I totally get that. I feel the same way. Like I kind of beat the system, and I think it's like a double edged sword. I have sometimes the ire of some of my friends. Um, are compare not that I like us to compare our lives, but sometimes I talk about what goes on in my life and they almost wistful, like, oh my God, what an adventurous, interesting bohemian lifestyle. But I also then look wistfully on like, okay, well, you have a stable relationship and you're raising kids and got a house. Like there are other elements to there's both sides of the coin. And yes, there's an investment, I think, depending on the job path that it requires college degrees, which is a real shame. And we also have a huge population now and more people, I think, than
There are
jobs.
reasons to go to college. I'm not the person that's going to
Yeah.
tell you you shouldn't go to college.
No, no,
Just
no,
know
no.
that
No.
it's an investment. It's an investment
It's
that may not
expense.
pay off. It's an investment that may not pay
Sure,
back.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing that our parents lied to us about. They thought that the investment into college
I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
was going to pay back. That's not true anymore. It's like if you got the right degree from the right school, made the right connections,
Hmm.
got the right internship, had backing so you could take that internship for free.
Hmm.
If you were able to do all that stuff, yeah, there's a very good chance it'll pay off. But if you just go to college and pay for it and finish, that's not an investment that's probably going to pay off. If you didn't think about like what not just what career but what job you would get after you were done,
Hmm.
whether or not that job is viable in terms of making money, whether or not it's going to still be a job in 20 years, which who would have known? Who would have
Yeah.
known?
No, I totally get where you're coming from, brother. there's all we know people. I'm not going to say their names who have they got a degree in one thing and then they went and did now they have another job. Everyone has paths that they choose, and some people are just they're I don't want to say crafty, but they understand how to work a system as well. So sometimes they might not be the qualified person, but they have great experiences or references, or they know people, or they get an in, or they pursue, the people that they know, right?
That used
The
to be true,
network.
but it's becoming less and less true. Like that whole thing where like, "Oh, but like you have experience and like you may not be qualified, but I like your vibe." That
Hmm.
is becoming less and less true. People want
Perhaps so.
people want
I do
not
not
just
know.
they want the piece of paper and they want the privilege that comes with that piece of paper. They want you to be like ready to go.
Hmm.
Like it's
I
it's
get that. I see that in a lot of fields for sure. So, well,
it
I don't know what the
again,
answer is
when
though.
our parents were young, that wasn't
Hmm.
true. You know how they
True.
how
Okay.
the old folks always say, "Well, you need to get some you need to pull some shoe leather and
Yeah.
go and talk to the boss and make your case." It's like if
Uh
you
huh.
did that, they'll call the cops. At this point, if you like demand a job from them, they will get you escorted off the property. I think that's
Well,
what they don't understand.
I get. Well, that's pretty.
I
That's
mean, that's
that's
a bit of
hyperbolic.
hyperbole, but
Yeah.
the point is what they'll really tell
Extreme.
you is go apply online and then they'll never like if you follow
You're
up, they'll
right.
just
You're
ignore
mostly
you.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I don't know. Polite and persist. I think there's a middle ground. I think you're right for some things, and then if you keep at it, it might. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to report
I'm
back.
not saying it's impossible for you or anyone on an individual level, but on a society level, this is where we are.
Okay, that what, that's a better differentiation then. Because we all have anecdotal individual things, and I have faith that things. I am a hardworking, intelligent person, and I find my own path in life. So when I'm entering this new phase of life, I'm not. I'm worried in a way, but also I'll get back to that in a second. I'm making my choices, but I do agree with what you're saying that as a society, there's no template, and I do get you. There used to be a better template, and a better construction of a path, and now it seems a bit more randomized and difficult, less
Oh, it's
accessible.
not random. I need to be very
Okay.
clear. It is not random. It's about the net worth of your parents.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that definitely is a
It's
huge,
not
huge,
random.
huge factor.
It's
Okay.
it's not random. I mean, it
Well,
maps
it's
on
random
pretty
for the
clearly.
individual. Yeah, I
Well,
understand
yeah,
that.
it's random compared to who you get saddled with as your parents, sure.
Yeah.
But in terms of is it random of which people end up with the best situations? No, it is not random at all.
Well, I still subscribe to the idea that we kind of make our own paths, of course, and our own weather. And I think there are things out there like you can find paths in life that can be exciting or rewarding for yourself, and you can make those opportunities happen in this day and age. So now that's where the difficulty comes. But is that the stable, reliable life? And probably not.
All
So
right. Well, so I'll tell you a story that'll boost your spirits a little bit. It's
good.
not
We
gonna be
need it. Damn it.
it's not gonna be a story about stability though. It's not gonna be a story about
uh,
stability. It's not gonna be a story about it's not gonna be a story about like,
sure.
all the bills I'm able to pay. It's actually a story
Okay.
about me losing money.
Okay. Okay. Go on.
All right. So I have felt for a long time that I've never really had clout in the city of Baltimore. I feel like I don't have anything that I'm contributing. I'm just some guy with a saxophone who someone pays sometimes to do some things. But no one knows me as anything but just like this guy that can play the saxophone at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
was determined to change that. I was. And my first thought was I'm going to write some music and have a band and go out and do it that way. And things kind of worked a little bit, but both the bands that I had kind of dissipated. One of them is completely gone, and the other one has been in remission for like 9 months.
And what are these bands?
Uh,
You don't have to say, I guess.
Dan Wallace and whatever the Dan Wallace and the Generals was. Maybe I said the
Okay.
Dan Wallace Derek Michaels Collective. That's
Okay.
gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Um, Wallha still exists, but we haven't played in, I think, since
Wow.
last July
And
was the
then
last
J
time.
Pope and all that was long ago. J Pope in the Here Now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
was long ago.
Mhm.
That was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Things were moving in the direction of us not really doing much,
And that
even before
happens
the pandemic.
regularly.
It
Stoop
does.
Kids just broke up, and Miss Mojo. I'm talking, New
No,
Orleans.
yeah, yeah, yeah. New
Yeah,
Orleans folks.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
it happens, and like,
Crooked Vines, my
yep,
band. Yeah.
yep. That
Okay.
just, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's. I thankfully still maintain a really good relationship with pretty much all the members of J Pope, except for the one guy that became a crazy anti-vaxxer, but that's a different story.
Sure.
Um, but but it has nothing to do with like anyone doing something wrong. It just kind of dissipated for no reason. Anyway, so back to my story.
Hmm.
So I um I decided to start going to a couple different bars and sitting in with people again, like I used to when I was younger.
Hmm.
Because during the pandemic, I didn't do that. Even after I met Maggie, I didn't really do that too much because I wanted to spend more time with her. Now she wants me out of the house more often than not. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get out of the house and go sit in. She's like, great. I'll be home alone. This is excellent. I'll watch my TV shows. I'll chill
Watch my
out.
stories.
Yeah, right. Watch my stories, drink my wine. It's gonna be great. I'm like, cool.
Excellent.
I'll see you tomorrow. So I've been going out more and trying to sit in with people. And I did some really nice sit-ins, met some nice people. Um, and because of that, I actually got called for a gig super last minute. So there's this bar that's this blues bar called the Cat's Eye Pub that's in a famous area, like historical area of Baltimore called Fells Point. And they called me the day of. The guy was like,
Hmm.
I messed up. I need to, call out. Are you willing? Are you able to put a band together by tonight? He called me like 11. The band had to start playing at 8.
Oh
So I
wow.
was
Okay.
like, you know what? I'm gonna make it happen because I really, really want to play there and I really want to make my name there.
You told me this. Okay, keep going though. Yeah.
So I did. I put it together. I got an incredible band, incredible, incredible group of musicians. I never could have dreamed of a better group. And I called a lot of people and like ended up with some really good folks. Like a lot of people just either didn't
Mm.
answer or they were busy, like perfectly nice people. I wouldn't say I called anyone in a specific order of like I wanted this person first, this person second. It had nothing to do with that. It was just like all these people were really good. I called every one of them. I was just like, I just need to put a band together for tonight. And I get
Mhm.
there and I'm like, the 4 people that I got were a bass player in his 50s that I do wedding band stuff with, an incredible, incredible guitar player in his 40s that works for the army band that I love his playing, and we haven't gotten to play together in years, many, many years.
Okay.
And this 23-year-old drummer who's still in college and who's doing a great job. So I got them together. They'd never met each other before, and we just made it work. We played a bunch of like Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder tunes, and like we didn't want to
Oh,
play jazz. It's like this is not a jazz bar. This is a blues bar that does like
yeah.
some Motown stuff. Like we don't want to play jazz. Like we want to play
Having
some.
fun. Fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we knew. I was like, no one was singing. Like I was just playing saxophone, but like I
That's
knew
still
this is not.
cool. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did that once. A month later, they asked me to do it again because someone else had to cancel.
Mhm.
And then after that, they were like, okay, well, we'll try and put you on the schedule so you're not doing it last minute. So they gave me another one, and they liked that. So then a month later, this was like November. The booking agent calls me and she says, "Do you want to do every third Wednesday for the entire year of 2024?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And now I have this regular gig every third Wednesday. People have been showing up. People have been enjoying it. People have been getting into what I'm doing. It's all kind of covers. It's actually kind of heading more in the jam band direction. So we're doing. Last time we played a bunch. Do you know who the Gray Boy All Stars are?
Mhm. I've heard of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
We've been playing a bunch of Gray Boy All Stars music. Some
Are
like.
you are
Sorry, go
you
ahead.
enjoying this? I mean, are you
Oh,
enjoying?
yeah, it's freaking great. It's
Okay.
so much fun. These
Okay.
again, these are like the best musicians I can possibly imagine. And the thing
That's
is,
awesome.
we play these tunes, and they're like not exactly the most recognizable tunes, but they're tunes that some people recognize. We're playing some more recognizable tunes. We're still doing the Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, whatever. Like, but we do them in a specific way. Well, we do them in a way that we don't do the arrangement. We just start doing it and then we just go.
Mm-hmm.
We don't worry about form, we don't worry about anything. Everyone in the band knows the songs. We just play them and whatever happens happens. And that like
Cool.
sense of freedom, that sense of just like whatever happens happens. If we do a 10-minute long jam, we do a 10-minute long jam. And everyone's into it. Like no one's in the audience being like, "Oh, this is boring." Mostly because our guitarist is freaking ridiculous and he can hold
Mm-hmm.
everyone's attention at all times.
Cool.
But
That sounds awesome, man. I love that idea of the freedom. That sounds like a great thing.
yeah, and I think I can build off that. I think I can do something with that. And musicians have been coming out and they've been either sitting in or just like enjoying the vibe. Non-musicians have been coming out and like enjoying the vibe and doing all the stuff. So like I am losing money most of the time because the bar can't actually pay us what I promised the band. Uh,
Oh, okay. I was wondering when you were okay. So you're promising everyone a certain amount of money, and
it
the
is
bar.
over what the bar is actually giving me, which is fine. I mean, the
You got
fact
it. Okay.
is,
That's an investment you're making then. If
it
you're
is.
the leader, it's your
If I'm the
name.
leader, it's my name,
Yeah.
it's my
Yeah.
vibe, it's it's the whole thing. So, and I also am perfectly fine. The bar is still paying me, and it's not like a
Mhm.
whole lot extra that I have to pay the band. Like it's only
Yeah.
a little bit. I'm not going to go into specifics, but
Yeah. So you're
it's
not walking away with money personally. You're
usually
paying
not.
a little bit.
And here's the thing. I'll tell you this much. I've never lost more than $40 with all the
Okay. That's pretty
with
good.
all the tips that I make
Yeah.
from the people that are there. They're really
Mhm.
good about pushing to tip the band. So
Good.
like I've actually never lost more than $40.
Okay. That's I mean, that's a decent investment then. You're paying to have your name, the opportunity to play. I know that sucks to pay to play, but if it's something that you enjoy,
Yeah,
that's I don't know, it's a tough
but also
it's an
I'm not
interesting
paying.
thing.
It's not like I'm paying the bar. I'm paying the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
musicians.
No, of
Like
course,
that
No,
feels
I
fine
understand.
to me. And the thing
Yeah.
is, it's not like I'm paying them all that much. I'm paying them enough for them to show up and do
And
what
play
they
the
like to
yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
they it's not enough money that they would do it if they didn't enjoy it. We'll put it that way. They enjoy it. They really really like the gig. They like the vibe. They like the sense of freedom that I give them. They like the fact that they're playing with all pretty top-notch people. Um
Mhm.
and
Well, it sounds like
that
a
yeah. So it's great and I'm very happy. And like that's how you beat the
well,
system.
that's awesome.
That's how you beat the system.
That's true, man. I like that. Well, I'm glad we brought it to that because I think that is true. It's experiences and what makes you happy is a big part of this journey of ours. Like how we conduct ourselves in life and how we lead our lives. Um,
Yeah.
so if you're enjoying that, that's awesome,
I've
and I'm
never had a
happy for
bad
you.
night there. Every time I've played there has been one of the best nights of my life. Period.
That's fucking cool,
And I don't
dude.
even
I
drink
love
that
that.
much. Like I'll have like a beer, one beer.
Yeah,
Still best night of my freaking life.
that's awesome. That's great. Ah, man, that's yeah. I think for me personally, getting into places with my band and I got to start wrapping things up here because I got that last minute call
You
and I
do.
gotta
You got
head
that
out.
last
But
minute call just like I did. Yeah.
it's just a weird thing. But it pays well enough. So and I only have so many of those left. I think that's another thing about leaving New Orleans and. I made a lot of choices to not play with bands and to turn down. I've turned down gigs that I got offered. I mean, they're low pay. I think we talked about one, like a tour. There were a couple tours I got offered and some cover
Yeah,
band
you
stuff
mentioned
and a
that.
wedding thing, just starting at the end of this month throughout the summer. And I am basically pulling the trigger on leaving at the end of May.
All
And
right.
yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting in a lot of
Well,
ways.
you'll be closer to me. We'll actually be able to hang out more. So
That's true. That's true. And I like making my own music. Speaking of, I have a song called Wawa coming out on Friday, May 9th, 10th. I'm sorry, Friday,
which
May
Steve
10th.
has let me listen to and I enjoyed
Yeah.
a great deal.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, you said you like the mix and Dave, our friend Dreadless Dave, he mastered it. But it's all me, all recorded and
And you
mixed and
played all the
everything.
instruments too, right?
All the instruments, all the singing, all the stuff. It's all
Yep.
me.
It's all you.
Everything. Yeah, all me. Everything from it's from an EP or an album I'll release at some point. I already have 4 songs, 5-ish recorded, plus another couple that are like very quick to record when I just have some time. Um, and everything on that record is going to be all me, starting with this single called Wawa. And yeah, it's definitely a super personal song. It's definitely it's very different than Crooked Vines. It's much more singer songwriter. Kind of stripped back, well, except for the part where it gets all kind of crazy, but uh,
Yeah.
towards the end with all those effects and everything.
Yeah, but I still feel that's in the singer-songwriter vibe more than anything else. It's just a crazier
Sure.
version of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you liked it. I've had a lot of good reception to it. It's definitely it's literally like about me leaving New Orleans. Like that's kind of what it's about,
There you go. That makes
right?
sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and move and going
Are
back
are
north.
there any Wawas in New Orleans? I don't think there are, right?
No, 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 no. Wawa's Pennsylvania, baby.
Well, and Maryland now.
And Maryland.
Pennsylvania
I
and
just
Maryland.
like that area. No, no, I don't think it goes past like Virginia or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think it
Um,
does. I don't even know if there are any in Virginia.
maybe
Um,
not. I don't know. Yeah, it's
I
I
know
was
it
thinking like
goes into
North
New Jersey
Virginia,
a
but
little bit, but, like,
yeah.
that's still Pennsylvania area, yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, like Delaware County and
Right.
beyond area and yeah, so it's but it's like, missing that is also like it's just a placeholder for what it represents and this move that I'm making and the choices I'm making, our conversation today is like there's a part of me I get what you're saying, and I'm glad that we touched upon like it's not individual, it's like a cultural society dilemma, a societal dilemma. But I have hope for myself. I'm optimistic. I understand that I have a thing going on right now that is would have continued to be sustainable, and yet I just wasn't happy anymore. And that's me personally.
And at
For
the end of the
others,
day, if you're not happy, you do need to make a change,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
even if it's a little scary. I'm not
yeah.
unhappy. That's the
That's good.
funny thing
I'm
about
glad to
all
hear that.
these folks, these old folks that tell me like, "Why don't you get a regular job?" I'm like, "I'm making more money than I would with a job, and I'm happy." Like,
That's the yeah. And all I was getting out earlier when I asked the initial question, I think, was just have you considered if this has become difficult for you or anything? Have you even give that? And it sounds like you have considered, and
I've
you're
looked
not
into
even.
it, and it looks
Yeah,
like bullshit. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like bullshit.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
that's me. And, like, again,
yeah.
I think it would have to be something pretty high paying, pretty pretty amazing in terms of work-life balance. Like, it would have to be a truly exceptional job for me to stop what I'm doing and go do that. It would have to be
Sure.
exceptional because
Yeah.
I'm happy right now.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that for you, and I'm glad of that. And definitely keep that. Obviously, keep that going. For as long as you can. That's a great thing to have, and we know so many people that that doesn't always happen for. So it's good to have that in your life. It is tough. I think this period of our lives is like, but I'm 35. You're about to be 35. Like you said, it's definitely a place to reassess, I think. And there seems to be that collective. I know people. They're kind of a lot of people are turning the page into a new chapter in their lives somehow, one way or another. Whether it's
Well, I mean,
having a kid or
I
getting
did
married or
because
switching jobs. Yeah,
I did because when I turned 30, I met Maggie.
yeah.
Like, that was my page turn. I
Okay,
mean, we know a little bit. You and I know a little bit about my life before that. It was
sure.
something. It was something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a lot of wild.
But I was not happy. I was not happy then.
Yeah,
I was extremely unhappy, and now I can't say that
yeah.
anymore. I'm not extremely unhappy. I got to say, my 30s are so much better than my 40s. Sorry, my 30s are
You get
so much
20.
better than my 20s, and that's with COVID throughout my 30s.
Yeah,
That's with COVID. That's
I
messed up.
don't. I agree. That I think my 30s, personally, interpersonally, my 30s are better than my 20s. Like internally, health, mentally, like all that. My life is better than my 20s. That being said, and I hope for both of us, for our 40s are better than our 30s. I
Yeah,
really,
we'll see.
that's my goal. My goal is for sure for my 40s. I know that they will be if the path I'm taking and the choices I'm making and my goal, what I want from life. My 40s will be better than my 30s. My 50s will be potentially better than my 40s, and I understand that we have sunsetting years and things that happen later. If I'm lucky enough to make it too, all this is like I don't fucking know if I'll live to tomorrow or to next week.
Of course. And the
I
other
have
thing
no
about
idea.
sunsetting years is, thankfully, they keep getting pushed further and further back.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's just
my parents are 70 and 66 now, and they're doing great.
yeah,
I mean, your
that's
mom
awesome.
is what, 70 something?
She's 74. She'll be 74 in June. She'll be
Yeah,
74
and
in
you
June.
guys just went to freaking Holland. Like,
Yeah, we went to Amsterdam. Yeah, last yeah. Yeah,
that's a
she's
great time.
Yeah, she's going to Spain, I think, with my sister in
Heck
this
yeah,
summer, or Portugal or something.
that sounds great.
Super cool. Yeah. So I think if you just keep, I know it's a little woo woo, but I really think the positive attitude, a positive mental space, and for real, you make your own weather, you put forth your own vibes,
But
that you occupy.
but I think it's always
Not
important.
you specifically,
No, no, no,
Dan.
I
I just
know.
mean, yeah,
No, 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 I know. I think it's important for us to acknowledge though that like there are systems and forces in place that are putting a lot of people through a lot of hardship.
yeah. It's like modern day slavery. It's like debts and
Yeah,
servitude.
it's and
Yeah,
like yes,
indentured
some of the situations that some people are in
servants.
are based on their individual actions, but like so what? Like do you
Yeah.
think that they should suffer and die on the street because they made a few bad decisions?
I completely agree. I completely agree. Yes, we should have better safety net protocols in this country because we have the wealth and we have the resources, and there's just an abundance of.
There's no reason why
Yeah,
we should be in the situation that we're in. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
I agree. I agree with that, and yeah. So I hope everyone listening is, who made it this far today. Thank you for tuning in and for listening to Dan and I chat it out. I like that. That was a good conversation.
that was
That was-
something.
yeah, it was
We
great.
we went
It
to a
was
couple different places.
Yeah, I had
It
no
was
idea we
fun.
were gonna do that today. I had no idea. Yeah. But any what gigs can you tell the people about that you have coming up?
Yeah, I guess every third Wednesday at the Cat's Eye Pub in Baltimore. Yeah, and
Sure.
you're
Okay.
going to get me there. In term anything else, I don't know yet. I'm just seeing where life takes me, you know. But
Awesome, man. I
I
love that.
got that band, and I've got this other like kind of offshoot New Orleans band. It's kind of funny. Like no one plays New Orleans music here, so like if
Yeah.
I'm the one guy that does, I don't play it well. Like I'm not like playing like really good trad jazz. Someone
Hmm.
was like, "You're just playing like Charlie Parker would play, like, uh, you know, when the Saints go marching in." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
That's
doing.
fine. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not trying to play like Sidney Bechet. I'm not even
Yeah.
trying to play like Charlie Parker. I'm trying to play like me, but like I'm much more of the Charlie
Can't.
Parker, Sonny Rollins
Yeah.
vibe.
Of course.
Yeah,
Well, you can't do much other than be yourself. So,
perfect.
um, all right, man. I gotta get off.
Sounds good.
And
Have a
yeah,
fun gig, fun last minute gig. Look at you.
thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Thanks everyone for tuning in and stay crooked. Yeah.